Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we do the essential work of taking that huge stack of source material you've gathered, all the dense reports, the big international headlines, and, the sometimes completely baffling celebrity news, and we boil it all down into one focused, digestible conversation.
And it's a necessary process, isn't it? Because the sheer breadth of the material today, it demands some careful navigation. We're going from the high drama of a Scottish castle and the economics of deception,
Right.
straight into the, let's say, darker shadows of international espionage,
Right.
and then the cold, hard reality of geopolitical conflict and organized crime.
And that juxtaposition, that's the mission today. We have to give you the valuable insights, the connections across these wildly different fields. Entertainment, international intrigue, and even the surprisingly volatile market for collectibles.
Yeah.
We've got so much material on the explosive future of the BBC's biggest unscripted show, The Celebrity Traitors. We've got deep dive plot details on a new UK spy thriller called Betrayal.
And that's before we even get to the truly bizarre spectacle of Timothy Chalamet crashing his own look-alike contest.
Exactly. Plus some really critical updates on North Korea literally severing its border and the operations of global cartels. So let's just jump in. Let's start where the ratings are highest and the deception is, let's be honest, the most theatrical. Okay, we absolutely have to begin with the Celebrity Traitors. I mean, the data points alone just insist on it. This show isn't just a rating success. It feels like a major shift in how the BBC is capturing a national audience in, the streaming age.
Phenomenal is almost an understatement. When we talk about dominance, you have to look at the key metrics for just the first Celebrity edition, Episode 1. It racked up a staggering 14.8 million views.
14.8 million, that's a colossal number, especially for a show there's not, a live final or something.
It's huge. And by the time it got to the finale with the last 5 left in the castle, that peak viewership hit 12 million.
So it held its audience. That level of engagement, it confirms its status as not just good TV, but a genuine cultural event, right? Something people felt they had to watch and talk about immediately.
Absolutely. It became the biggest unscripted show in iPlayer history. The whole franchise, really, is just dominating the landscape.
And the conclusion gave everyone that pure dramatic satisfaction. Traitor Alan Carr, the comedian, so many people underestimated because of his, his slightly bumbling persona.
Right, the persona. He managed a masterful deception. He secured the entire prize pot. What was it? 87,000.
87,500 pounds.
Right, 87,500 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And he donated every single penny to his chosen charity, Neuroblastoma UK.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a stunning victory that played perfectly into the show's core mechanic. Always suspect the least likely person.
Okay, so this is where the deep dive gets really interesting. We have to analyze that moment of failure for the Faithfuls because they had the numbers.
They did.
The final 5 were Faithfuls, David Olusoga, Nick Mohammed, Joe Marler, and then the 2 traitors, Alan Carr and Kat Burns. And Kat was banished just before the very end game.
So the Faithfuls had a clear majority. They had every chance to win.
But they didn't.
Because paranoia is just such a powerful corrosive force in that castle. The most devastating moment, and the one all the sources analyze, was faithful Nick Mohammed's decision to banish his perceived ally, Joe Marler.
And Nick was such a good player up to that point. He was so sharp.
Phenomenal, right up until that crucial final vote. And afterward, he openly confessed that banishing Joe was his biggest regret from the whole experience.
It's so fascinating here is the psychological breakdown of why a smart, strategic player like Nick made such a monumental error, an error that literally handed the game to Alan Carr.
Well, the source material reveals he was operating in what they call an absolute pressure cooker environment. His logic wasn't logic anymore. It was fueled by pure, unadulterated confirmation bias.
Right, so he wasn't looking at the evidence objectively.
Not at all. He was relying on a narrative he had built in his own head to rationalize his suspicion. He believed, looking back, that faithful Joe Marler and a confirmed traitor, Jonathan Ross, had engineered a spat earlier in the game.
Engineered it for what purpose?
Specifically to take the heat off Jonathan. The theory was, if they argue in public, really go at each other, then no one would suspect they could possibly be aligned as traitors.
Wow. So he took a genuine disagreement, a known traitor and a known faithful just clashing. And under all that stress, he twisted it into this 4D chess move of pre-planned deceit by a traitor pair.
It's an extraordinary leap of faith. It's driven by the sheer exhaustion and the need to find someone, anyone, to banish. Joe Marlowe the Faithful became the victim of Nick's overanalysis.
It perfectly illustrates the central problem of the game, doesn't it? When you're constantly told to question reality, any little anomaly, any weird interaction becomes proof of a conspiracy.
Yes. Nick had a hunch about Joe's behavior, and instead of dismissing it as maybe stress or just a personality clash, he used every single piece of past evidence to confirm that hunch he already had. The result was just a catastrophic misfire.
So moving beyond that final roundtable, the celebrity version brought in a whole new layer of social dynamics that the civilian version just doesn't have to deal with. The whole issue of celebrity hierarchy and reputation management.
This is the core systemic difference. You had actress Ruth Codd, who was murdered early in the game, being very candid after the show. She claimed there was an unspoken hierarchy among the celebrities.
And the implication of that is pretty serious. She was suggesting that producers might be, subtly reluctant to lose their big names too early.
Right, which could affect how both the traitors and the faithfuls choose their targets. You don't want to be the one to murder the national treasure.
But didn't the results kind of complicate that theory straight away?
They really did.
I mean, Paloma Faith, a massive name, she was murdered first. Gone. Then you have huge cultural figures like the Olympic diver Tom Daley, the historian Sir Stephen Fry, the presenter Claire Balding. They were all eliminated very quickly.
It's true. If there was some grand plan to protect the biggest names, it was spectacularly ineffective.
So what's the nuance then?
I think the hierarchy might not save you from elimination, but it definitely changes the gameplay. The sources all noted that viewers consistently observe the celebrities being too polite.
Ah, yes, the politeness problem.
Exactly. They're all keenly aware of their public reputations, and maybe more practically, they don't want to burn bridges. There was this genuine shared incentive not to be the most toxic person in the room.
Especially if that toxicity means you won't get an invite to, say, Jonathan Ross's famous Halloween party.
Famously, yes. The cost of being wrong is just exponentially higher for a celebrity. A civilian loses the prize money. A celebrity, if they come across as a vicious, paranoid bully, they risk losing potential earnings, future roles, social capital.
That self-censorship, it stops the kind of raw, messy aggression we sometimes see in the civilian versions. It replaces it with this, strategic, almost corporate politeness.
You've hit the nail on the head. It changes the risk profile completely. If you're someone like Joe Lycett, you have to make sure your appearance on the show doesn't compromise your entire, very carefully crafted public brand of humor and benevolence. You're playing for charity, sure, but you're also playing for your brand's integrity. It's a tightrope walk.
And speaking of integrity and powerful personal narratives, we have to acknowledge the story that Ruth Codd shared amidst all this reality TV drama. She revealed she recently underwent a second baloney amputation.
It's a profoundly moving update, and it really puts her time in that castle into a completely different context. Her chronic pain, it started from a soccer injury when she was just 15.
Which caused nerve damage, right? And that led to her first amputation when she was 23.
Yes. And she explained the decision to have the second surgery was made to drastically improve her quality of life. She talked about being constantly on crutches, struggling with severely damaged joints in her foot.
And she faced this huge physical challenge with just remarkable humor and resilience. I mean, she joked that she named her new wheelchair Fat Tony.
It's incredible. It's a
Yeah.
testament to her strength and her openness in sharing that reality with the public. And it serves as a necessary grounding moment, It reminds the audience that behind all the strategy and the celebrity gossip, there are real people dealing with very, very serious issues.
Absolutely. Okay, let's pivot back to the business side of this celebrity machine, the official future of the Traitors franchise. So this is a certified cash cow for the BBC. They're not letting it go.
No chance. The BBC has officially confirmed that Celebrity Traitors Season 2 will air in 2026. It'll be broadcast on the main channel and, of course, streamed on BBC iPlayer. The production timeline is now clearly set.
And for all the die-hard faithfuls among you listening, the civilian version, Season 4, that's confirmed to return in early 2026.
Which, historically, that means a New Year's Day launch. It's cemented its spot as, essential holiday viewing.
And that positions the celebrity version, Season 2, to follow in the autumn of 2026, probably mirroring that successful October premiere of the first season.
But the truly fascinating data point here, it isn't the viewership numbers. It's the economic engine the show has become. The franchise, and this includes the UK, the US, and the celebrity versions, all filmed at Ardros Castle, has generated an estimated $21.8 million boost in gross value. added to Scotland's economy since filming began in 2022.
Okay, that is a number that needs unpacking for the learner. What exactly is gross value added, or GVA? How does a reality show generate nearly 22 million pounds?
So GVA is a standard economic measure. It basically represents the value of goods and services produced in a specific area,
Yeah.
minus the cost of all the inputs used to create them. Essentially, it's the economic profit that stays within that region.
So in this case, that 21.8 million, that wasn't just like the show's production budget, it was the direct economic impact felt by local Scottish businesses.
Precisely. We're talking about the entire production crew staying in local hotels, using local catering companies, hiring local transport and security, sourcing local materials, and of course paying hefty location fees to Ardross Castle and the surrounding areas. It turns a historic Scottish castle into a major driver of regional economic activity.
It's a powerful validation of the production's role as a regional employer. It's a huge contributor to the Scottish tourism and service sectors.
It really is.
So with 2026 now locked down, the inevitable casting frenzy has reached a fever pitch. The sources are just, they are dripping with rumors. It feels like every major UK personality is now angling for a spot in that castle.
The celebrity value of appearing on this show is immense now. In the comedian and host category, the list is just stellar. Bob Mortimer, a national favorite, is constantly rumored. And Russell Howard made headlines when he said, The Traitors is the only reality TV show he would ever consider doing.
That's a massive endorsement for the format's credibility, isn't it?
Huge. And then you have the potential for sheer chaos from stars like Joe Lycett or Ricky Gervais. Gervais, in particular, he's known for avoiding almost all mainstream reality formats. The fact that his name is even in the mix suggests the show has transcended the typical boundaries of the genre.
And we also hear names like David Mitchell, Rob Beckett, and the daytime duo Alison Hammond and Dermot O'Leary.
Alison Hammond actually talked about the possibility of joining. She expressed this genuine concern that her naturally enthusiastic and, overly friendly personality would make her an instant target for banishment.
Because she'd be seen as overcompensating or obviously lying.
Exactly. That level of insight shows how carefully these celebrities are already calculating their potential gameplay. They're thinking about it deeply.
Okay, what about the actors and the other big personalities? That list is just as compelling.
It is. Ruth Jones from Gavin and Stacey was reportedly approached. And the biggest change of heart we've seen comes from Danny Dyer.
Oh, this is a fascinating case study. He turned down season 1.
Initially, yes. He said the premise was too confusing. But then, after watching the first season, he realized it wasn't about complex rules at all, but about manipulating people and a lot of lying.
He gets it.
He's now reportedly on board, conditional on the money being right. So he sees it as a psychological challenge he's now eager to take on.
Can you imagine the energy he would bring to that roundtable?
It would be electric. Other high-wattage personalities being rumored include Stacey Solomon, Natalie Cassidy, and, the absolute icon of unpredictable honesty, Miriam Margolyes.
Oh, she would be a dream candidate for this show.
Precisely because her unfiltered nature would make her completely impossible to read. She apparently turned down season 1, but the pressure to appear on season 2, now that the show is such a phenomenon, must be intense.
And the producers are reportedly also chasing massive figures like Lord Alan Sugar and the financial expert Martin Lewis.
Martin Lewis turned down the first season due to time commitments, but then expressed major regret.
And finally, you have the truly aspirational names, the ones that feel like a fantasy cast list. Dame Judi Dench, Adele, Tyson Fury, Sir Andy Murray, and the surprisingly consistent rumor, Courtney Cox.
Cox's potential involvement is driven by a personal connection. She's good friends with the host, Claudia Winkleman, and is reportedly a huge fan of both the US and UK versions. Securing an American A-lister like her would be a huge coup, adding an extra layer of international prestige to an already globally successful franchise.
The producers have a very, very deep pool of talent to draw from. 2026 is already shaping up to be must-watch TV.
It is.
Okay, we've thoroughly explored the visible world of celebrity deception and the high price of reputation. Now, let's pivot to the secretive, high-stakes domain of espionage and political maneuvering in part 2.
The transition here is perfect, really, because the themes of secrecy, loyalty, abandonment, they permeate both the game of traitors and the world of intelligence and royal protocol. We'll start with a detailed look at ITV's major new espionage thriller, Betrayal.
The premise sounds deeply compelling. The sources describe it as emotionally intelligent, thrilling, and darkly funny. Julian Gerald, a BAFTA winner, is directing, and filming has been active in Manchester and Liverpool since July, so this is a significant, high-budget production.
The show centers on a character named John Hughes, played by Sean Evans, who is deeply familiar to UK audiences from his work in Endeavour and Vigil. John is a troubled MI5 operative. He's in his mid-40s, married with 2 children, and he really represents the old guard.
What do you mean by the old guard?
He joined MI5 during the War on Terror era, a time of clear enemies and a very singular focus.
And now he's facing an internal conflict because the intelligence landscape has changed so dramatically. He struggles to adapt to the new MI5 environment, which the sources highlight as having become more progressive. What does progressive even mean in the context of an intelligence agency?
Well, it's a critical point of friction in the story. Progressive here seems to mean a shift away from that classic, boots-on-the-ground counterterrorism focus that really defined the post-9/11 era. It means prioritizing cybersecurity, dealing with state-sponsored misinformation, managing complex geopolitical state actors like Russia and China.
And embracing new, often younger, recruits with entirely different skill sets.
Exactly. So John Hughes' skill set, raw counterintelligence, maybe leaning toward more blunt action, is suddenly viewed as outdated or even risky.
That sets the stage for disaster. What's the inciting incident that forces him back into that old way of operating and threatens his career?
So the plot kicks off with these threats to national security. John meets an informant, a man named Asan, who is a British Iranian with links to Manchester gangland. He has crucial intelligence. But in their high-stakes meeting, Asan is abruptly executed by a lone gunman.
And John reacts.
He does. Operating on that instinct honed during the War on Terror, he impulsively kills the assassin in retaliation.
The ultimate point of no return for an operative whose methods are already under scrutiny.
Precisely. His superiors are not impressed.
Yeah.
They are furious. Their immediate assessment is that John recklessly involved himself in a gang turf war, not a high-level national security threat.
So it threatens his whole career.
It does, because in this new, progressive, risk-averse MI5, an unauthorized killing, even of an assassin, is a massive liability. They want him sidelined.
But John knows there's more to it. He starts digging into Asan's past, trying to redeem himself and prove the killing was justified by a real threat.
And that need for validation, paired with the mental health struggle after taking a life, puts immense pressure on his home life. His marriage is severely tested, and he faces the classic spy thriller temptation.
Of course.
He meets a Marine, a new, very sharp intelligence operative brought onto the Iran desk. Their professional connection is described as electric. She represents the future of MI5 that he struggles to belong to, yet he finds himself drawn to her, which adds a critical layer of emotional and professional risk to his already precarious situation.
And that's expected sometime in 2026.
Yes.
Okay, from fictional intelligence abandonment, we move to a very real and highly public financial abandonment within the British royal family. King Charles is continuing his campaign to definitively sever ties with Prince Andrew.
This is a strategic move that goes way beyond personal disdain. King Charles has cut Prince Andrew's £1 million annual living allowance, and this is citing new details revealed in Robert Hardman's book. It's the latest and possibly the final step in financially distancing Andrew following the fallout from his association with Jeffrey Epstein.
We need to remember the context here. Andrew had already lost his publicly funded police protection back in 2022.
That's right, which Charles then had to privately fund just to maintain basic security. So cutting this allowance is a very public signal that Andrew must now manage his own financial destiny.
And this move is complicated by the ongoing residency issue. Andrew has consistently refused to leave the massive 30-room Royal Lodge, where he holds a 75-year lease signed back in 2003.
He's digging in his heels. Charles wants him to move to the smaller, empty Frogmore cottage, but Andrew is effectively resisting the king's wishes regarding his own home.
But the sources, they include this fascinating counterpoint from an insider who claims Andrew is no longer a financial burden on the king.
Yes, they assert that Andrew has found other sources of income related to his contacts in international trade.
That phrase, contacts in international trade, it immediately raises some ethical and reputational questions, doesn't it? Given his history and the nature of his prior associations.
It does. But the insight here is strategic. The king is pushing Andrew toward full financial independence. If Andrew can legitimately fund his own lifestyle and maintain Royal Lodge, it actually reduces the king's liability and removes the narrative that Charles is funding a disgraced figure. But that reliance on those vague contacts remains the central reputational risk.
So moving from royal accountability to governmental accountability, we turn to the very serious issue of diplomatic support, or the lack of it, for British nationals who are detained arbitrarily abroad, as highlighted by Amnesty International UK.
This whole discussion was prompted by the BBC drama Prisoner 951, which focused on Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe's harrowing years of detention. And Amnesty's analysis was scathing. They argued that the UK government's systemic failure to secure the release of Britons arbitrarily detained abroad constitutes a clear betrayal.
That is powerful language. What's the distinction between a typical arrest and arbitrary detention that makes this a governmental betrayal?
Arbitrary detention means detention without a legal basis. It's often without a charge or under a charge that violates fundamental international human rights laws, like freedom of expression. Amnesty's argument is that the government is failing to advocate forcefully enough, that they're treating these cases as, like, administrative hassles rather than fundamental injustices against their own citizens.
And they highlight a specific alarming current case, Ahmed al-Douche.
Yes. Ahmed al-Douche is a Manchester father of four who was arrested in Saudi Arabia in 2024. And the reason for his arrest was solely social media posts he made criticizing the government.
And he was convicted under terrorism legislation.
A common tactic used to silence dissent. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison.
What specific diplomatic failures did Amnesty point to in his case?
Multiple violations. The Saudi authorities have consistently refused to hand over crucial court documents, denying him any kind of transparent process. Furthermore, Amnesty noted the UK government's failure to advocate strongly, or even to take a public position on the case, despite compelling evidence that his detention is a clear violation of free expression.
So they're urging the government to develop a clear, proactive strategy.
Yes, one that includes publicly demanding the release of these nationals and ensuring immediate access to proper legal and consular support. This indictment really suggests that the consequences of government inaction, the betrayal, are profoundly and often permanently damaging to the lives of its citizens, far weighing the stakes of a celebrity losing a game show.
We've navigated the high-stakes world of national security and international relations. Now let's pivot sharply to part 3, where the stakes are measured in nostalgia and sheer absurdity, pop culture spectacle, and lucrative collectibles.
This segment is a breath of fresh, chaotic air, dominated by an incident that just perfectly encapsulates the current level of celebrity worship and viral media attention. Timothée Chalamet crashing his own look-alike contest.
The sheer audacity of it. The 28-year-old actor who is currently dating Kylie Jenner just shows up to a contest specifically organized to find people who look like him. It was hosted by a YouTuber, Anthony Poe, in Washington Square Park, New York.
And the event was already a magnet for thousands of spectators. But he didn't appear as himself. He wore a disguise, sporting an uncharacteristic mustache and lighter color on his curly locks.
Initially hiding his face behind a mask.
Yeah. This wasn't some PR stunt arranged by his team. It was a bizarre, almost guerrilla appearance in the middle of a major public space. It's peak Chalamania, the actor generating a massive viral moment just by being there.
But here's the punchline that still defies belief. Despite crashing his own look-alike contest, Timothée Chalamet did not win the grand prize.
The irony is just so rich. The $50 prize, yes, just $50, was won by a 21-year-old named Miles Mitchell, and he came dressed not just as Chalamet, but as his iconic character, Willy Wonka.
It's a hilarious, self-referential twist. It proves that sometimes the dedicated fan cosplay beats the real thing, even when the real thing shows up.
And the organizers paid a steep price for their fun. They received a $500 fine for hosting an unpermitted costume contest.
A fine 10 times the value of the prize money. It proves that even viral fun has regulatory overhead in New York City.
That whole anecdote is just a brilliant microcosm of modern celebrity. The star's curiosity, the fans' devotion, the tiny prize, and the high regulatory risk. It's just absurd theater.
So while he's busy losing look-alike contests, what else is Chalamet up to? The sources suggest his career trajectory is only accelerating.
Oh, he's incredibly busy with several high-profile projects. He's set to star as the legendary Bob Dylan in the biopic A Complete Unknown. And fans recently got a glimpse of his preparation, hearing him sing Dylan's classic, A Hard Rain's Are Gonna Fall, which shows his commitment to the role.
And he's also set to star in a sports drama, Marty Supreme, alongside Gwyneth Paltrow. This is where his star power really shines.
It is. Paltrow, who had been on a 5-year hiatus from acting, reportedly agreed to take the role specifically because of Chalamet himself. That level of magnetic influence, drawing A-list talent out of retirement, is rare. It confirms his status as a definitive industry leader right now.
So from the speculative value of star power, we transition to the definitive hard asset value of nostalgia in the world of collectible trading cards. specifically the booming market for Pokemon.
The valuations we're seeing here are just staggering. There's an ultra-rare Pikachu Pokemon Illustrator card set for auction by a Goots, the French auction house, and it's expected to command a price of up to £251,700, or 300,000 euros.
To understand that price, you have to understand the rarity and the historical context. How many of these were ever printed?
Only 39. 39 versions of this card were ever made. It is the holy grail for serious collectors.
And to contextualize just how insane this market has become, we have to remember the record set by this specific card design. The Pikachu Illustrator holds the record for the most expensive individual card ever sold.
After celebrity collector Logan Paul purchased a graded version for a remarkable $5.2 million in April 2022. That single move shifted the perception of Pokemon from, a childhood hobby to a genuine alternative asset class.
And the origin story of the card is what drives that premium value. It wasn't something you could find in a booster pack.
Not at all. It was designed by Etsuko Nishida, the artist who helped create the original Pikachu character for the Game Boy video games. And crucially, the card was never sold commercially. It was awarded as a prize to winners of a 1998 drawing contest organized by CoroCoro Comics,
So the first contest yielded 23 cards, and then subsequent ones added another 16.
capping the total population at just 39. It's certified history, not mass-produced plastic.
Okay, so for you, the learner, who might be curious about the value of your old collection, we need to provide some tangible, practical tips on how to determine if you're sitting on a small fortune.
Absolutely. The first step is identifying rarity. Flip the card over and look for the symbols at the bottom corner, usually near the copyright date. This is the simplest marker.
So a circle means common, probably worth very little.
Exactly. A diamond indicates an uncommon card.
But the real money is in the stars.
Correct. A solid black star signifies a rare card which is worth holding on to. But the truly valuable ones are marked with a white or gold star, indicating an ultra-rare card. This includes promotional, secret rare, or especially scarce versions.
And beyond that symbol, what are the other crucial value indicators?
Holographic cards, particularly those with a shiny background behind the illustration, and first edition cards, those are indicated by a small first edition stamp, are key multipliers of value. But nothing, and I mean nothing, matters more than condition. This is the absolute deciding factor in that six-figure bracket.
And that's where professional grading comes in.
Precisely. If you believe you have something truly rare, you have to send it to a professional grading service like PSA or Beckett. They will assess the card meticulously on a scale of 1 to 10.
And they're judging 4 key criteria, right?
Centering, corners, edges, and surface. A card graded a 10, or gem mint, will sell for exponentially more than the exact same card graded an 8. The price gap between a raw ungraded card and a gem mint 10 can be tens of thousands of pounds. Collectors are buying condition, not just the card itself.
It's a deep dive into the minutiae of cardboard, but one that could genuinely change a listener's financial future if they check their attic. Now, we shift to part 4, moving back into high-impact international stories covering conflict, organized crime, and profound emotional events.
We begin with a very serious geopolitical development. It represents a tangible, physical escalation of tensions on the Korean peninsula. Recent satellite images show North Korea has begun to permanently sever ties with the South.
The images captured by Planet Labs PBC are just stunning. They reveal that North Korea has dug at least 2 massive mystery trenches directly across major roads and rail lines in the demilitarized zone with South Korea.
And this isn't symbolic construction. This is infrastructure destruction. They're replacing it with physical barriers. Analysts from the monitoring group 38 North, that's a U.S.-based program focused on North Korea, detailed the scale.
Sure.
The Western Trench, located 1.7 kilometers west of Dorasan Station, is estimated to be 125 meters long and 7 meters wide.
7 meters wide is significant. That's not a temporary ditch. It's a tactical military-grade barrier. It's designed to completely sever those transport links.
It is a clear act of defiance and finality. The work began shortly after North Korea conducted demolitions of the northern sections of these cross-border routes earlier this month. For decades, those roads and rail lines, even though they were often unused, they represented the potential for future reconciliation and communication. They were symbols of potential unity.
And Kim Jong-un is actively dismantling that symbolism. Why this specific action, and why now?
This move is consistent with Kim Jong-un's latest political decision to formally abandon the long-standing goal of reconciliation with the South. Tensions are at their highest point in years. with Kim repeatedly showcasing his expanding nuclear capabilities and redefining South Korea not as a separated relative, but as a hostile foreign adversary.
So these trenches are the physical manifestation of that policy shift.
Exactly. They are solidifying the border as a permanent, hard, uncrossable front line, rather than a temporary division. It's a stark, unambiguous signal to the world that the window for peaceful unification, however slim it might have been, is now being definitively closed by North Korea.
From state actors, we move to non-state actors that operate with the efficiency of a massive corporation. We turn to organized crime and the highly sophisticated syndicate known as the Commission, operating in Sydney.
This group is described with unusual language for a crime gang. They're accused of essentially governing the local cocaine market.
What does governing even entail in that context?
It means they have achieved near monopoly status and operate with regulatory control. They dictate the supply, the price, and the distribution methods across the entire city. They weren't just moving drugs, they were controlling the entire financial mechanism of the market, generating immense, reliable revenue streams.
And the scale of their alleged operations over such a short period is staggering.
Over just 4 months, from February to July, the syndicate allegedly ferried over a ton of cocaine. The estimated street value is more than $1.8 billion.
Yeah.
That volume and that velocity of transport, it requires logistical capabilities that mirror a major legitimate shipping or logistics company.
How did they manage to operate with that kind of scale and still maintain the level of anonymity required for high-level organized crime?
Their key to success was their structure. They strictly minimized face-to-face contact, relying on layers of compartmentalization. And crucially, they employed highly specialized infrastructure. Specially modified cars, equipped with sophisticated hydraulic hiding places, known in the underworld as hides, that could individually hold up to 10 kilograms of cocaine. This level of technical sophistication allowed them to pass through checkpoints unnoticed.
The police noted that lesser criminals often falsely claim the name the Commission for a fear factor. So what distinguishes this arrested group as being genuinely affiliated with the real syndicate?
It was the professionalism and the seized assets. Police confirmed that the complexity of the operation, the use of these advanced vehicle modifications, and the high volume of drugs moved all aligned with the methods known to be employed by the true top-tier syndicate.
And speaking of seizures, the police raids across southwest Sydney were highly productive.
Very. They seized 20 kilograms of cocaine, $800,000 in cash, a high-value Rolex watch, multiple guns, and notably homemade ballistic vests. This just reinforces the image of a highly structured organization that prioritizes protection, high-tech concealment, and maintaining substantial liquidity to sustain their market dominance.
And finally, we close this deep dive with a story that cuts through all the structural analysis and the economics to the raw human cost of global instability, the emotional toll on the Liverpool player, Luis Diaz.
This was a crisis that stopped the world of football. Diaz missed several high-profile matches after both of his parents were tragically kidnapped in Colombia. It was a terrifying, deeply personal situation that played out on a global stage.
His return to the pitch against Luton was an emotional moment for everyone watching. He came on as a substitute and managed to score a dramatic stoppage-time equalizer for Liverpool.
And his subsequent celebration was not one of athletic triumph. It was a profound public plea. He immediately lifted his Liverpool shirt to reveal a handwritten message on his undershirt, Libertad para Papa.
Which translates simply to freedom for Papa.
The significance of that moment, it cannot be overstated. By scoring that goal and broadcasting that message on the global stage of Premier League football, he leveraged his visibility and fame to keep the crisis, the safety of his father, at the forefront of public and political consciousness, both in Colombia and internationally. It was a raw, unfiltered act of desperation and love, reminding everyone of the enormous personal weight these professional athletes often carry beneath the surface of the game.
It serves as a necessary full stop to our discussion of global crises, connecting the seemingly distant threads of conflict and crime directly to the personal suffering of an individual.
It was an intense journey.
It really was. We started this deep dive in the playful darkness of a Scottish castle, detailing Nick Mohammed's betrayal driven by exhausted paranoia, and the $21.8 million economic boost a reality show can provide to Scotland.
We then explored the secretive, cold dynamics of power. From a new spy thriller where the MI5 operative struggles with the progressive modern world, to a king cutting off his disgraced brother's allowance, and a government accused of betraying its own citizens arbitrarily detained abroad.
We looked at the extreme financial value of a 1998 Pikachu card and the technical sophistication of a Sydney cartel using modified cars to traffic $1.8 billion worth of cocaine. And we closed with the physical severing of ties at the Korean border and the profoundly human plea of Luis Diaz. It's a remarkable synthesis of human drama, cold economic reality, and geopolitical tension.
We've thoroughly examined high-stakes deception in reality TV and fictional spy thrillers, but we also dissected real-life betrayal, from a king defining a new financial separation to a government failing its citizens. And this raises an important question for you, the listener, to mull over. We look at the consequences in all these realms. Think about where the most dangerous forms of betrayal occur. Is it in the highly visible realm of celebrity, where reputations are ruined? Or is it in the secretive halls of power, whether that's royal, political, or criminal, where a failure to act has consequences that permanently reshape lives and international borders? Where does the ultimate responsibility for loyalty lie, and what is the true cost of its abandonment?
That is something worth mulling over until our next deep dive. A compelling question indeed. Thank you for bringing your sources to the deep dive. We'll see you next time.